We got Garrett from Nomad Games here, guys. Everybody say hello to Gareth, producer over at Nomad Games of This is Mystic Vale. Now, we'll skip over that. And we'll get you were the one who destroyed us at Mystic Vale last time we played.
My bad. Yes, that was me.
Oh. So
I told you it was him.
Yeah,
man.
so you're the one who drew his entire deck on us in an expansion that literally destroyed us completely.
To be fair, I did say this to Sam and Tom, who's been helping coordinate all this, and I don't think the message got passed to you, Chris.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to win. About 75% of the way through that game, I was looking at your deck, the cards you were drawing, the cards you were buying. I thought you were going to win.
And then
Really?
Yeah.
so
wow.
Okay.
Listen, you don't have to make him feel good.
Okay.
You could tell him the truth that he was doing the worst. No.
I mean, no disrespect, Lyle. I thought you were, when you were explaining why you were choosing things, when you were looking at your deck, your logic was sound. But Chris had a few opportunities come up, and normally it takes either a level of skill. Maybe this was entirely luck, that when an opportunity came your way, you just so happened to take full advantage of it. But that was happening. There were, like, when I was buying cards and then new cards would appear, I'd go, shucks. I wish I hadn't bought a card, because then it wouldn't have revealed it for you. And then you took that card, which was the right thing to do. And towards the end, a few of those moments happened for me, which is why, like, Lyle, you took the Streamer Vigor, which allowed you to buy 3 cards instead of 2.
Yep.
When that happened, I was like, right, that's it. That's my game gone. I'm done. This is a loss. I'm going to lose to these 2, and I'm the dev. But then another one appeared later on. I was like, yes! Fortune favors me.
Well, I'll just speak for myself and say purely calculated in all my choices.
Oh God.
I calculated every choice. This is what everyone says about my Ticket to Ride strategy, and the fact that I'm like the champion of Ticket to Ride. It's just natural. I'm just a natural, dude. I'm natural. I'm a natural.
No, I'm actually very, very pleased to hear all of this, and I don't know if you're sugarcoating all of this just because we told you we're live now. This conversation would be different if it wasn't live. No.
Yeah.
But it feels really good, because you're obviously an expert at the game, and just to hear your commentary on our game is actually really interesting.
See, I could go back and do like a blow-by-blow play, and you can see in that video about 75% of the way through the game. Now, in a standard VP pool game, you get about 30 points that are live between us all to try and claim, ignoring the ones that get scored at the end.
Right.
And Chris was forcing that pool to deplete. Now, all the cards that we were choosing would have a successful combo that would get us a load of points in one go, or they would score at the end of the game, Lyle. And I got lucky in the sense that I did get that combo in play, but a good counterattack to anyone that is building up a combo is to force the game to end early. You score all of the live points, you deplete that pool as quick as you can, so the game stops before the combo can trigger. And Chris was well on his way to making sure that was happening.
Yeah, no, Chris, this is sort of classic. The more games you play with Chris, the more that you understand this is classic sort of like counter strategy. He likes to make the games fast and force plays.
Go hard in the paint. Always aggro. Always face hunter. No, that's awesome. And we had a blast playing Mystic Vale. And again, guys, before we get into some Talisman digital talk, join us tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. And we'll be playing more Mystic Vale action, checking out some more of the expansions. And you know what the good thing is? Gareth will be in bed because he's in the UK, and it's super late for him, so he can't join us and crush us on air. Ha ha! Checkmate. Wow. Checkmate,
Although
Gareth.
I gotta say though, seeing how you were playing and then getting beat that badly, that's one of those like light bulb moments for me and Chris, where you're just like, oh, like, oh, the options and what you can do with this game, like sort of just like all the floodgates opened up for me. I was just like, I didn't realize we could go that hard
Yeah.
in this game. So very, very cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. Very, very cool way to see and get us in there, and it was an honor to play with you, bud. But hey, today we are here to celebrate your guys' release of Talisman Digital on the Switch, man. Are you guys excited or what?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We've been a PC mobile company since our start, pretty much. We had some foray into PlayStation with the help of another company that reached out to us, and they helped make that port. But this project, all the projects that we're currently working on for Switch, are entirely internal. So it is people that are sat in our office are making the ports, making the games, optimizing, making sure everything works, ensuring that the kind of the cross-platform play side of it, so Switch can play with PC and mobile. That's all done in-house, and to be on a console that is one of the most owned things in terms of gaming at the moment. We're super.
Yeah, I mean, that's impressive. I mean, I know at PAX Unplugged when we were sitting there discussing Evolution Digital with North Star Games, their director over there, she was very involved with the game, was saying one of the biggest issues they had and one of the biggest lessons they learned was building a game not just for one digital platform, say Steam, taking into account mobile, PS4, Switch, all of them being different, and within taking it in-house, how much work and how many things can break and go wrong. I mean, did you learn a ton of lessons trying to make this game work across so many platforms? I mean, getting it to Switch?
Yes, especially with console. Now, with Steam, iOS, and Android, they are a lot more malleable. So you can iterate quicker, you can upload builds, you can see the outcome of that, you can see your failures. So, for example, on Android and iOS, if you upload a build that functionally it doesn't work as a game, something will happen immediately. You get immediate feedback saying, this build broke, give us a new one.
Okay.
Whereas with other platforms, especially with consoles, they don't have that as an automated process. They have that as small print. They have that as terms and conditions. So there's a phrase that's called TRC checks. I forget what it actually stands for the actual initials, but it means you have to respect our rules for creating a game on our platform.
Sure.
So it has to work in this way. It has to use this terminology. You have to represent our logos in this way. And they're the big things with console. We can't just throw a build at them and see if it works or not. Not that every build that we give, we hope works, but there's not a machine that comes back and says this has failed because of this. There is a person on the other end that would then look at our build, get back to us and say, here's point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4 of why we can't put this on our platform yet. So then you have a long back and forth dialogue with the platform holders to make this happen.
Wow. And I mean, it's really impressive with a shop your size, with a house your size, being able to pump something out for so many platforms, which is super cool. And then now Mystic Vale coming out tomorrow night. I mean, that's 2 titles. I mean, you just discussed it for 1. And now you're pushing 2 at the same time with the same team. I mean, like, well done, guys. You guys got to be excited that this is
well done.
out.
And I gotta say, it's not just it's not just like you're pushing out base games here. I mean, we mentioned early in the stream that both these games have so much more additional content. And I realize, I'm not a programmer or anything like that, so I don't really know what's really involved in that. But I feel like the more stuff that you need to throw into something, including all these expansions, there's more chances of things breaking. And so that's why I think it's even more impressive that you're doing both these games cross-platform. So that's already a feat. But then you're adding in all this additional content and making sure all that additional content is also working correctly. So I think that's kind of crazy. And I want to applaud you guys for doing that stuff. And everything looks beautiful.
Yeah. What I mean, the thing I want to ask you is, what are you most excited about now that this is on the Nintendo Switch?
I think it's the nature of console audiences, and especially Switch, especially Nintendo as a brand, because The age range between our dev team is something like 22 to 55,
Okay.
which means the vast majority of us working here grew up on Nintendo consoles, whether that was a SNES or a GameCube or the N60. N64 was my first console that I had. And so the representation of working with the company that put out Mario and Kirby and all these kind of classic hallmark games that a lot of us remember fondly, we're now part of that. We now look at Nintendo, and that's got our game on it. We worked on that.
Wow. Yeah.
That is awesome to think about it that way.
Yeah,
for
that is
sure.
cool,
That's
man.
really, really exciting.
I mean, ironically enough, this morning I was sitting there playing. So when I was on the road for work the last couple weeks, my son calls me up and we just got a Switch, and all that good stuff. And he's been playing like Super Mario Odyssey, which is like, I guess the new Mario. Like it's the newest new Mario, right? He's 6. He calls me and is like, Dad, can you help me get Mario working? I was like, oh yeah, he wants to play Mario Odyssey. I was like, did you mess up the Switch or something? He's like, no, the original. Like, I want to play on your system. I have my original Super Nintendo. I have an NES too, but he loves the Super Nintendo, and he wanted to play Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. And I was like, you want to play on my old? We just bought you a freaking Nintendo Switch, and you want to play on my Super Nintendo from 19? I was like, what? But the coolest thing about that is this morning we actually popped up that mod. You can actually play Super Nintendo games and Nintendo games. You pay for the online service and you can do that. They have like every game right there. And this morning he's playing Super Mario World. And I'm like, why did I go spend $60 on Mario Odyssey? Why did I do this? Yeah, no, but the fact that that's so cool, because I agree, that's like so awesome that you're able to jump into a platform that meant so much to you and everyone in the gaming industry. That's why I think a lot of people love the Switch, is it's bringing them back to that.
Yeah, if we ignore the fact that it is a fantastic console because it brings the best of a 50-inch TV screen and mobile gaming together. It's the DS meets the Wii. That's fantastic. Yep. But in-house, we know we're now familiar with the names that look at our game when we submit Mystic Vale or Talisman. We get feedback saying, hey, there's this bug, can you fix it? And the name that is attached to that, we kind of go, oh, that was that person that we were dealing with back on when Fighting Fantasy or Death Trap Dungeon Trilogy came out on Switch. Mm-hmm. But whenever we talk about it in office, it's, has Mario looked at the build yet? Has Mario passed us? And whenever we talk Nintendo or when we need someone to do something at Nintendo, has Mario done this thing?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah.
We love that.
Does he approve? You think he's got a little office there in his giant castle? He's sitting must pass. Oh, that's awesome, man. No, that feels good. That feels good. And now, and what I was just came to mind just now too is that the age when a game like Talisman as a board game in the board game industry coming out so long ago, people. I think Will in chat was saying this was the first board game he played like after he played Monopoly. I mean, for a lot of people, what was the year Talisman came out?
1983, guys. Yeah.
1983, which is the same year Nintendo the NES released, I believe, right? I think
so.
Which is that's almost like you guys are just working in parallel as this. So as a board game and people that were playing board games at the time and then got exposed to the NES, I mean, it just makes sense that this should be on there. That's just a really cool parallel.
That's one of the things that we've been so fortunate with Talisman is the fact that it is part of nerd culture, it is part of geek culture. There are plenty of games that have come out before 1983 and after 1983 that have been so loved by a generation. And for people that were first finding their way with fantasy games, with RPG, with board games, like you said, you moved on, or Will moved on from Monopoly. Talisman is that first step that a lot of people took. And then they passed that on to their kids. And then the other direction that it went in, which has benefited us massively, is the likes of Matt Colville and Big Bang Theory and all these kind of like the gods of geek all know what Talisman is and they all support it. And like you've got the game stacked behind you. There's plenty of YouTubers and Twitchers that also have Talisman on their shelf. And then you get people that are aged 10 to 30 or even older people that just miss Talisman, miss that train. They kind of look at that game, they respect the person talking, and they go, why do they like that game? And then suddenly we've got a new fan.
Yeah. No,
That's great.
100%. That's so
Yeah.
cool. That's so cool. And the fact
That is cool, and I think a nostalgia factor definitely plays in. I mean, there's a handful of games, just in recently that have had a resurgence from this time period. I mean, Chris and I always talk about the Dark Tower as something that's being sort of resurrected. This is something that like is from that same time that's now still completely relevant. And so it's really interesting to play a lot of the older games and just remember, what those mechanics were like, and also to see like how much of it still sort of works or feels clunky or whatever. It is just fun to play older games.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think that a very personal experience with that kind of thing of the game that got me first made me want to be a game dev was Final Fantasy VIII.
yeah.
And,
Nice. Yeah.
and then years after that, I always said, I don't want to go back to it because I'm scared it's not going to be what I remember it to be.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It was ported to the Xbox, and I'm an Xbox player primarily. And so I bit the bullet. I bought it, and I was like, yes, it's still the game I love.
What, do you like Final Fantasy 8 over 7? Come on.
Yeah, it got 8, then 9, then 10, then 7.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Look at that.
This guy.
That's controversial.
Well, the fact, I mean, I can, so going by everything you've said just so far in terms of aging you without saying what your age is, yeah, I think we're older than you.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say we're older than you.
We're a little bit older than you. When N64 was your first console, I was like, oh. So that's awesome, man. I
mean,
love.
that's why he beat us in Mystic Vale. All right, he brought the young blood.
I know.
You know what I mean?
He's still young and spry. Like, he can make those quick choices. He's still doing math like this. This is what he's running.
I've got 400 hours in Mystic Vale on Steam. That doesn't include mobile, and I've played a load of the physical game as well. Like, I've done 2,000 hours in Talisman as well. When you spend this amount of time working on a product and playing a product, in theory, you should be okay at it. At the very least.
Yeah. In theory.
Can I make?
It doesn't really hold true for me and Chris. The more hours we put on a game, we don't necessarily get better.
Yeah. Can I make a backhanded joke? Is that in Talisman you've got 2,000 hours? What's that, like 5 games? Oh.
My little gaming group, we had a board game weekend where we arranged to stay over at my friend's house, and I robbed a load of board games from the office because on top of the games we work on, there are the games that we have an interest in. There are the games that other companies have sent to us because they want us to take a look. So we have got a massive library here. I took this library up to my friend's house, and they went, "We've never played Talisman." I had a few of the expansions, so Saturday we played 8 hours worth of Talisman, and we finished the game after 8 hours. On the Sunday, I was like, right, what's the next game that we're going to play? And they went, can we play Talisman again? Like, no!
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, speaking of game length, I know that Talisman is like a 1 to 6 player game. Is there a player count sweet spot, do you think, for the game that's good?
It depends on what you want from Talisman. If you want a Monopoly-style D&D experience, which is what Talisman's supposed to be, but you want to win, then probably 3 to 4 players.
Okay.
If you are happy to be there for the journey and you are full into the role-playing, as many as possible.
Got it.
It's one of those cases, one of the best games of Talisman I've ever had. One of the random players I was online with, we were naming all of the followers, and when someone stole a follower, they were like, "No, Hedwig, that's my ass."
Nice.
And that was the fun in the game. When someone wins in that kind of game, that's a slightly bittersweet experience because you're like, "No, I was having fun. Please don't stop the fun."
That's
Nice.
great.
Yeah,
That's how we
I
enjoy.
can get that.
We try to do that a little bit in like games like Kingdom Death and stuff like that. We have to say that adds so much more story, and you're like, personalization of the game is amazing. And guys, you can check out, if you guys type !Nomad in chat or head over to twitch.tv/nomad_games. What Gareth is mentioning is they stream the game themselves, and Gareth was mentioning before we went live today that they do a bunch of stuff with Talisman Digital in terms of, like he said, RP. They've got Dark Souls mode, like there's, like we said, there's so much customization in this game digitally, that on the Switch and in Steam and everything like that, that you can play it in so many different ways if you just want to really dive into the lore, right?
Yeah, entirely that. You've got some of the Talisman Elite that will tell you the only way you can play Talisman is with everything turned on. You have some of the Elite that say you need to play with these expansions only. And then you have some of the casual audience that don't think too hard about it. They just, whatever they own, that gets turned on.
Yeah.
Then some of the casual audience will only play with a few things at the time because it's just a bit easier to process. Mm-hmm. If you are looking for a win, you want to play in a certain style and certain expansions help that. If you're looking to role play, then the world's your oyster, whatever gets turned on. In fact, there are some people that will turn certain expansions on because that creates a certain style game, and that means that their role play is slightly different. So the Fireland expansion, which is one of the expansions that I said is one of the difficult ones, there are two enemy cards in that if they are left unchecked and they are on the board, they start filling the board with flames, with fire tokens. And if you end your turn in a space with a fire token, you lose a life. Now, if you want to roleplay that, the world's on fire, you've got to defeat these big bad monsters. Again, it just depends on how you want to play.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to dive into that at some point. We'll have to set up a time where we can do the role-playing stuff with you guys one of these days. That sounds awesome. And like I said, guys, if you want to go experience that, Nomad streams, Nomad_Games on Twitch. They've got a whole thing going over there that we'll have to tap into. But speaking to Gareth, I mean, we mentioned a little bit before the stream, with people getting this on the Switch and what we're giving away today, guys, don't forget you can win a copy of this right now! !giveaway for that information. For the base game comes with a few of the expansions built in: the City, the Sacred Pool, and Frostmarch. What are the few expansions you'd recommend a new player trying, and then what do you recommend a new player maybe avoid to get a good experience?
So the expansions that are coming with the bundle on Switch were intentionally chosen as they give a bit of every type of experience that isn't going to be overwhelming. So the City expansion is the easiest to go through, although I would say the Highlands is another good version of that. So in Talisman, you've got the main board, and then you get 4 corner boards that sprawl away from the main board. City is top left, Highlands bottom left. They're a good starting place that represent how the board can expand. Wow. Then you have the Reaper, you have Sacred Pool, which are deck boosters, and the Reaper introduces an NPC. So if the Reaper's on the board and you roll a 1 for your movement, you finish your turn and then you roll for the Reaper. If you can get the Reaper to land on someone, a roll chart appears. If you roll a 1 on the Reaper, instant death.
What? What?
There are many examples in Talisman where if you roll 1 outcome, that is the end of the game for you. The Reaper is one of them, though.
Oh, cool.
So these are easy ways to dip your toes into the various mechanics that Talisman can offer. Yeah. I would say that my favorite expansion, it's probably easy to medium in terms of difficulty, is Blood Moon, because that introduces a mechanic called the day-night cycle. So if you draw an event, that changes what cycle you're in. During day, all the enemies you face get -1 to their attack rolls. During night, they all get +1 to their attack rolls.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like
the
that.
shifting difficulty level in that, which is why it's my favorite expansion. But then if we move even further up the difficulty rating, we have the Harbinger, the Dragon, and Firelands. So these expansions are hard mode, essentially. If you want the hardest version of the game, turn all the corner boards off and play with those 3 expansions. The corner boards offer respite from how difficult the main board can become with all of this damage being done to Talisman. You can
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you turn those corner boards off, you have to face what's going wrong.
I love it.
Chances are you'll either burn through a few characters if you've got respawn on. If you've not got respawn on, everyone's gonna. The winner will be whoever is the last man standing.
I love it. Permadeath. That is awesome. Yes. That is
Wait,
so
wait.
cool.
So respawn. What is that respawn mechanic? So when you die, you just come back with your same character, just as your base stats, or
Exactly that. There's two house rules. One for respawn, which is you get your character back, base stats, you've dropped all your items over wherever you died, and that's that. There is one that does allow a new character to be selected. So if you've got random character selection on, then when you die, you'll be given 3 new characters or 5 new characters, depending on what you've set in the settings, and you go again with that character.
oh, that's kind of cool. I kind of like random.
Yeah, that sounds
respawn.
awesome.
That's like yeah, it's like reincarnation. You just don't know what you're gonna come back as.
Yeah. It makes you play differently. That's cool. That's awesome.
I've seen people, the kind of people that do play Talisman competitively, where the most fun is the victory and not the journey. I've seen people like that intentionally die in game so they can keep refreshing which characters are available until they find one they like.
Yeah,
That is actually funny.
I know certain people that would do that.
I know
Definitely.
certain people. I know certain people that would do that.
Then it just becomes an endless kill myself off fest to counter your new character. Like,
Yeah.
it's just-
There is one of the mechanics that the Harbinger brings to the game is the notion of cursed items, which means you can't drop it. So in Talisman, any item you can freely drop.
Yeah.
Unless it's cursed, then you have to go to the alchemist in the city space to destroy it or use some sort of special item to get rid of it.
Oh, it becomes bound to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's bound to you. So there is a card called the Key of Hades, or Key to Hades, I think it is. And for any life that an opponent gains, you gain a life. For any life an opponent loses, you lose a life. So we were testing the Harbinger expansion. It may have even been a later expansion. I just so happened to get this card. And I was steamrolling. How I was at the end of Mystic Vale, I was having a Talisman version of that. And there were 2 programmers and myself that were game testing the latest expansion. And when I got the Key to Hades, one of the programmers kept running at the Sentinel, that is the gateway between the outer and the middle region on the main board.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the stats to defeat the Sentinel, and he knew that. So he killed his character off, got a new character, and then started running at the Sentinel again, knowing that every life he lost, I lost one as well.
Right, he's murdering you off.
I ended up rage quitting, and I was like, right, I'm not playing anymore. And the next day I had to sit down and go, I'm sorry for how I behaved yesterday.
Yeah.
I love that.
What,
though.
what Gareth is not saying is that he was playing Chris that game. No.
Yeah, that's exactly. I love that. No, and in this type of game, I enjoy that a lot. I know there's some people who might call things RNG fests, or that's just too crazy. It's too hard. There's really no strat. I want my choices to matter. I hate when my opponents come and just ruin my strategy in some crazy way. Personally, I love that kind of stuff, and I know there's other people that enjoy that because it's the story that you go to at the water cooler the next day, or with your buddies, and you're like, dude, like, you serious? Like, I can't believe, but it's so funny. Like, it's so great that you can have that experience, and it's up to you how you want to turn that on and off and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Exactly that. I've played many hundreds, if not thousands, of games of Talisman, and I can't tell you about all of them, but I can tell you about this one game that I had 2 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that makes for a great, I think that's a sure sign of like a great type game. When a game, after you're talking about it and can tell funny stories, and it makes for great streams too. So,
Yes.
so awesome. So today I think what we're going to be diving into, Gareth, and before we sign off with you here, I think we're going to be throwing in the Sacred Pool with the base game. What are we in for by throwing the Sacred Pool in?
If I remember correctly, the Sacred Pool gives some added emphasis to which alignment you are. So in Talisman, I'm sure you've explained in previous streams, you can be good, neutral, or evil.
Yep.
And there are things that favor you, like the chapel on the main board. If you're good, you get to heal your lives to full. If you're evil and you go to the chapel, you lose a life. Conversely, if you're evil and you go to the graveyard, you can replenish your fate. And good people who go to the graveyard lose a life.
Mm-hmm.
The Sacred Pool gives you a load of cards that actually benefit being good, neutral, or evil.
Okay.
Very
So
cool.
it puts more emphasis on the alignment. That's cool. Yeah, because I remember, Yeah, yeah. At the beginning, it was kind of like I got it right away in the base game, but it's one of just so you know, guys, the Sacred Pool is one of the expansions that will come with the purchase of the base game. It will come with the giveaway version, whether you choose Steam or does Sacred Pool come with the Steam base game version if you purchase it on Steam? Am I saying that correctly?
It doesn't, but by all means, we can match the package that we'd give out on Switch. So whoever is the winner, if they don't have a Switch and they play on Steam, we can give City, Reaper, and Sacred Pool to them as well.
That's very cool, man. That'd be very nice. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
As I just like buried myself. And Sam is like writing me. She's like, "That's not true."
Yeah, I know we're gonna get emails from Sam later.
The one thing I
Why
forgot
are you
to
promising all these things.
Yeah, sorry. Lyle Duck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. So that's really cool. So that's what we're in for today. It's been awesome talking to you. Great work. Congratulations on the release of Talisman Digital Edition. That is super awesome. You guys can check out Gareth and crew over at twitch.tv/nomad_games. Gareth, you're going to be hanging out in chat for a little bit, you said?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in work for the next few hours, so I will judge you accordingly and tell you what you shouldn't have done after you've done it.
Please.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll probably ask for
That's exactly
clarifications on movements and choices if we run into them. But I mean, from when we played last time, I felt like the game it has and we have to say, guys, if you missed our first Talisman stream, you will see that everything Lyle's doing and your opponent's doing is clarified to you on your screen, whether they're looking at a card, whether they're looking at a space. Everything it's actually really well done for streaming and couch co-op version of a board game, where sometimes there's hidden information and the way it's dealt with can be a little funky. This is pretty much very well, done, we thought, when we played the base game. So you'll be able to follow along, ask questions, and Gareth can help us, understand what it is we've just done.
I will help you as best I can.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Gareth. Guys, like I said, Gareth will be in chat. He'll be hanging out with the new Nomad Games folk. Please ask questions. Be sure you enter the giveaway up for a base game of Talisman Digital Edition, whether on Steam or Switch. It'll be your choice, which is super cool. And again, congratulations, Gareth. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for the support. We appreciate it as always.
Oh, thank you guys for the support,
Awesome.
man. This is rad. Well, cheers. Rock and roll. It's been awesome having Gareth on here. Like we said, guys, come hang out. It's gonna be sick if you're hanging out in chat and all that kind of good stuff. Check out Nomad Games, twitch.tv/Nomad Games on Twitch. They're playing this game over there and they're doing lots of cool, deep stuff, which I hope we get to do in the future, Lyle, as we get better at this.